The federal government has formally filed a 3-count criminal charge against Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan for allegedly defaming Senate President Godswill Akpabio and former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello, filed by the Department of Public Prosecutions on behalf of the Attorney General. The suit accuses Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan of making statements intended to harm reputations in violation of Section 391 of the Penal Code Law, punishable under Section 392. Well, joining me to discuss this is Qudus Alalafia, as a legal practitioner. He joins virtually from Abuja. Thank you for your time, sir.
Yes, All
right, let's let's quickly get this out of the way. I mean, this seems to be more of a personal, what I call it, disagreement or personal issue. But we are seeing the federal government, take the front seat on this. I mean, from a legal standpoint, is that right?
Okay, thank you very much. The truth is that whatever we call a crime must have been an offense which the state has prescribed or proscribed to be an offense. So far, we have it under a written law duly passed by the National Assembly. It becomes an offense. Now, in that regard, you will see that by the nature of the administration of criminal justice system in Nigeria, even where something is done to you or to anybody, nobody is allowed under the criminal justice system to prosecute his or her case by its own choice. You go through the relevant agencies and the relevant bodies. And under the criminal justice system, we have the prosecuting agencies, we have the courts, and we have the correctional centers. So, for example, just the same way where A assaults B and B proceeds to a police station to lodge a complaint of assault. Of course, the A that punches B did not punch the governor, did not punch the president, did not punch any of the honorable members. But because that act is proscribed as an offense, the state will now, on behalf of B, prosecute A. And they will prosecute A by using B as the witness. So in law, they call B, who is actually the victim, they call him the nominal complainant. So if you are going to be asking me, I will say, yes, it is right, on the ground that there must have been a petition or a written complaint against Senator Natasha. And upon their investigation, in their wisdom, if they found that a prima facie case has been established, of course, it is within the power of the states or the federal government of Nigeria to prosecute a suspect in that regard. Thank you very much.
All right. I mean, you try to, of course, give some sort of a legal, what I call it, backdrop to this, but let's also consider the political and institutional implications of this, particularly when it comes to issues of what some might perceive as political persecution.
Yes. What is your question exactly?
So my question is the political and also institutional implications of this. What ripple effect are we seeing? Because for some individuals, they might consider this as some sort of political persecution.
All right, thank you. Yes, apparently, for me, I'm going to look at it in both ways. And I'm going to start from Senator Natasha. Senator Natasha, by my knowledge, is a lawyer and understands the gravity of the allegation she made on her. So I'm very sure she's well informed. I am sure of that. So for her to have come on her to make allegations against the nominal complainant in that case, I'm sure she has evidence. Of course, behind every action, there must be a justification. So I truly believe she must have evidence to back it up. That's on the one side. On the second side is that if we look at it under the societal norm, is it right that we have a former governor and also the sitting president of the Senate who are the nominal complainants in this case to have brought those charges against Senator Natasha? I think it is, the test is subjective. Or should I say, sorry, it's objective. Objective in the sense that if somebody goes online to say something about me, which I believe to be false, as Qudus Alalafia, will I take it lightly? Will I fold my hands, knowing fully well that, oh, this thing is not true? Do you understand? Also, if I'm on the side of Senator Natasha, oh, something has happened, and I know the implication of going on air to mention this. Oh, I'm going to mention it on air. As a lawyer, I am expected to know that it must have implications. And if I'm right, I think I also watched the video where Senator Natasha was even like, at the point she wanted the media to bring it out. And the editors of our daily newspapers were like, no, that it will amount to defamation because there was no evidence. And so at that point, those media houses dropped it. So for her to have come out personally, to have made those allegations, I believe she must have her evidence, or perhaps a justification, because justification is a complete defense to a case of defamation. So if she has justification or she has defense or evidence to prove, of course. But with respect to whether or not Akpabio, regardless of whether, however we perceive him to be, you will agree with me that I've come on to this program several times where I disagree with many of his procedures and leadership. Yeah. But on this particular issue, if we turn the table and we turn the table to ourselves and we see somebody coming out to make allegations against us, if I feel like, no, this thing is not true, the institutions are there that would help me to investigate. And if it's turned out to be false, of course, they will prosecute. Although I know that some people may say, but of course, defamation is also a civil suit. Why do they not also now rather proceed under the civil suit?
All right.
The right answer to that is that I would rather say, well, that is based on civil liberties. You choose whether you want to do your case criminally or you want to do it civil. Thank you very much. All
right, Qudus. We'll go on a quick break. Once we definitely come back, we'll slightly expand the conversation to look at freedom of speech and the legal boundaries around it. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Politics HQ on News Central Television. I still have my guest with me. Qudus Alalafia is a legal practitioner. Qudus, thank you for staying with me. Now, before we wrap up the conversation, let's look at the issue of freedom of speech and the legal boundaries around it. Even though the Constitution permits freedom to express yourself, freedom to come out and talk, what are the legal hurdles, will I say, maybe for an average Nigerian who might be watching and might not really understand the import of this around it? And how can you ensure that, I mean, when you make maybe an allegation, you have a solid case in court?
Yeah, thank you very much. The first thing is that whether that of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and all other instruments of fundamental rights identifies the freedom of expression. You have right to express yourself. It's part of your civil liberties. How you feel. Oh, the government is not doing fine about the economy. The government is not doing fine about this and that. You are allowed to express yourself, and part of it is what we call protest, where you have a very harmless and very peaceful protest, not the one that generates into violence. However, in the course of you now expressing yourself, there are limitations. There are Rubicons which you are not expected to cross. Part of it is that while you are expressing yourself, you do not make misrepresentations. You do not make statements that are not true. You do not try to impugn or infringe on another person's rights as a person. Now, in the course of now expressing yourself, particularly, or let me now streamline it to this particular issue we are discussing, where you are now sure that I want to express myself on a particular point, but this point, if I should come out without having my evidence about, it may amount to defamation, because once you make a statement, particularly criminal statement about somebody, to say, oh, this person attempted to do this to me, and that word, if you look at it, is something that the state has prescribed to be an offense. For example, somebody telling me, oh, Qudus, you attempted to steal from me yesterday. The word steal is an offense. So once you know that those statements, you underline the statement you want to use. Now, when you now look at the statement and see that this statement goes to the root of some other laws, which has established those things to be an offense, then you need to go beyond expressing yourself. You need to pack and get yourself ready for the required evidence. When you get those evidence, you can proceed to make to express yourself, hoping that the other person will come up to say, oh, you lied against me. If you look at it properly, when in the olden days, whenever our parents notice that their children are beginning to become to exercise some negative values, they will not immediately start to chastise you. They may even start watching you, and you will see that by the time they are coming at you to make that to chastise you about it, they have their full understanding and their full evidence
of where they're coming from, and of course what they intend to do. But let's also look at it from the angle.
Exactly.
Let's also look at it from this perspective too, where part of expression has to do with protest, and we've seen Nigerians come out to voice their discontent with some policies of government or directive and what may not. And then we've seen it met with resistance, even by, government operatives and all of that. So, looking at that context, are there limits?
Limits on the part of the government agency, right?
Yes.
Of course. See, law is for everybody. Where there is a peaceful protest, we've had cases of peaceful protest in Nigeria, and we have government, we have security agencies, shooting, or cases of shooting at what do you call it? At peaceful protesters. We've had those cases, and we've also had where the government, of course, everybody still remember what happened in 2020, Lekki 2020 and the likes. And we've seen that, okay, there are some, reform and what have you. But at every point in time, when there is a protest, a peaceful protest at that, because any protest that has to do with violence, that one is no longer protest. It has become, we call it sporadic violence. But once it is peaceful, where people are harmless, they are just, carrying they are armed only with placards or maybe with leaves and what have you.
All right.
The security agencies have no right to stop them in any way. In fact, they are even bound by the relevant instruments to protect them. The
protesters. All right.
To protect them.
The protesters. All right, Qudus, thank you so much. I understand that we really need to go now. It's been a pleasure having you on the program this evening. Qudus Alalafia is a legal practitioner joining virtually from Abuja. Well, thank you once again, sir.